Chapter 1, Multiversal Collision. There, that should just about do it, Bulma said triumphantly as she stood up off the lab floor above what appeared to be a giant screen TV with a control center laid with various buttons, settings, and a bunch of other mechanical tools. She stared at her newest invention with her typical face of cocky exuberance and excitement before exclaiming, "I gotta show this to everyone!" She practically screamed as she ran to her phone to spread the message. At the Sun family residence, 13-year-old Goten was once again stuck in his room doing his study that his mom practically shoved down his throat, and he was beyond bored. He tried countless times to tell his mom that he didn't want to be a scholar like his brother Gohan. As much as he loved and looked up to his big brother, he had slowly realized over the years that he wasn't exactly a beacon of perfection like he thought he was back when he was 7. Gohan was smart, quite powerful, and could definitely be an advisor of sorts, but he also slacked off very frequently from training, and despite his intelligence and understanding, he tended to get distracted with other things rather easily. Not that Goten was one to talk. He didn't train too much either these days, though not for a lack of trying. While fighting didn't completely dominate his mindset like it did his dad's son Goku, he wanted to get out there and experience the thrills and adventures that his dad and brother often spoke of, and get stronger to protect his family, friends, and the world from whatever evil the ever-expanding cosmos could throw their way. I just feel so weak and useless compared to everyone else, Goten thought in his mind. I'm only a Super Saiyan 1, and barely know the basics of martial arts, and most of that happened 6 years ago, Goten moaned in frustration while staring down at his half-finished math homework. I haven't gotten any stronger since Boo, while my dad and Uncle Vegeta are getting close to being able to tango with Beerus. He looked out the window and declared, "I will make something out of my life one day," he exclaimed, his face and eyes glowing with his infectious, pure smile, though all these features faltered when a realization hit his psyche. What would he make out of it? What exactly is his future? He didn't know, and it stopped his little self-encouragement mood dead in its tracks. Suddenly, Chi-Chi, his mother, came into his room. "Goten, Bulma wants us all to come see her new invention. She said it will be educational, so you take a break from your studying and come with us." "Alright!" Goten cheered, jumping out of his chair in pure joy and excitement due to being relieved of his studies for the time being, and because going to Council Corp meant he might have a chance to play with Trunks, whom he still considered his best friend. At Council Corp, the Z Warriors had gathered along with their families along a yard outside the Council Corp building where Bulma had set up the device. "You interrupted my training to show us a goddamn TV!" Vegeta roared in anger. "Oh, shut up, Mr. Prince of the Grouchiest!" Bulma shouted back, leaving Vegeta huffing. Recomposing herself, Bulma began speaking. "Everyone, this is the timeline window, a device that will allow us to see other timelines without needing to go to them via a time machine or ring." Most of the group had mixed reactions of shock and awe, while Piccolo and Vegeta had eyes narrowed in, and Goten and Trunks simply smiled in amazement. "Unreal," Yamcha said, awestruck. "Yeah, you can say that again," Krillin agreed. Goku was amazed, but also, as usual with scientific stuff, was confused. "Why would you make something like this, Bulma?" Goku asked curiously. "Well," Bulma started, "as we know, Beerus didn't exactly approve of my future son's time traveling, despite the good intentions behind it. And to his credit, he did have a point. So I dropped my plans to rebuild the time machine. Plus he blew it up. However, the endless possibilities of the multiverse have been nagging my curiosity ever since, to the point where I couldn't sleep. So I created this so we could see other timelines without getting on his nerves and risk us getting destroyed. Those controls are to try and select the specific timeline to look at." "Wow, that's amazing, Bulma," Tien said with a smile. "We can also use this to spot potential threats coming into our timeline," Piccolo said with a smirk. Bulma laughed joyfully. "Haha, I intended to use it that way. Now give me a few minutes here and we can look into our first timeline. Maybe we'll see future Trunks' timeline," Bulma said, giddy with excitement as she turned back to the controls. All the while, Goten and Trunks were getting excited to see alternate versions of themselves. "I bet all my alternate selves are all super strong genius warriors defending their universes with incredible power and brain," Trunks boasted. "Yeah," Goten happily agrees. "I bet the other me's are the big heroes too." "You? The big hero?" I highly doubt that, Goten, Trunks snidely replied. What? Goten whined, hurt and a little angry. Why can't I or any of the other cells be the big heroes? Because you have no backbone, spine, grit, skill, ambition, determination, or really any other trait that would make you a decent fighter, let alone the biggest, Trunks insulted confidently. Goten began to shed tears and shake with rage. I have all that too. You just haven't seen it yet, Goten responded, stomping his foot on the ground. Look at you, Trunks said with disgust. I throw one insult at you and you're crying and stomping your foot like a toddler. You do everything your mommy tells you to do. You practically kiss the ground I and your brother walk on. And whenever you're not with any of us, you do nothing but sit in your room studying or skinny dipping in the lakes around your house like some kind of weirdo loser. So since you're uncomfortable, Goten screamed in desperate rebuttal. Basic Goten, Trunks said sternly with his arms crossed. You are, and will always be, a dumb dog that does everything everyone tells him to do, with your only discernible trait is that you look like a miniature version of your dad. And even that will go away with time. Then you'll just be Goku's weak clone. Ha 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 ha. Trunks taunted, laughing. That was the final straw for Goten. His supposed friend had insulted him before, but never to this extent, and frankly he had been growing tired of it for a while, but until now he hadn't had the guts to do anything about it. But his temper had reached its limit. In an uncharacteristically bold and vicious move, he lunged himself towards Trunks in an attempt to punch his smug prick face. However, in his anger, he forgot that the timeline window was behind Trunks, so when Trunks dodged the punch, it kept going until it and his upper body smashed into the time window's controls, Bulma barely scooting out of harm's way. Goten! Everyone screamed simultaneously as the machine began to overload and started shooting sparks of electricity across the yard, and parts of it exploded. Goten began getting electrocuted, screaming in agony. Unnoticed by the group as the machine continues to go haywire, the screen flashes across several images of different universes, and some of the lightning seems to concentrate and coalesce into different shapes. Finally, the whole machine explodes in a violent boom that sends Goten, now burned, flying back towards the rest of the group. Goten! Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goku yell worried as they rush over to check on him. To their and everyone else's relief, he comes to very quickly. Ow! Goten groans as he picks himself up, though he is quickly bear hugged by his mother. Oh, my sweet baby, are you okay? Chi-Chi asks hysterically. I'm okay, Mom, Goten says reassuringly, just a little bit of a headache. Goten finishes before being slapped by his mother, who now looked pissed. What were you thinking? Chi-Chi scolds Goten, who fearfully backs up a little embarrassed. Well, I mean, Trunks, Goten stuttered clumsily, trying to explain himself, yet the words either weren't there or they wouldn't come out. Here's your answer, Trunks exclaimed. You weren't, just like you always are. God, why am I friends with you? Goten started crying again. I'm sorry, That's it, Goten, you're grounded! Chi-Chi yelled, interrupting. Bulma then got out to access the damage once the smoke cleared. Oh man, this will take me weeks to repair, she softly exclaimed. Before the smoke could clear though, the Z-Warriors suddenly picked up 7 new key signatures, where the remains of the time window are shrouded within the smoke. Who are these guys? Yamcha exclaimed. I don't know, Vegeta stated. However, all but one of them feels very familiar. Half of them have nearly identical key signatures, and some of them are huge. The Z fighters get into defense stances while Chi-Chi, Bulma, Videl, and Hercule, while carrying Bra, Pan, and Marin, run to the edge of the building, not sure if any of these visitors are hostile or not. As the smoke dissipated, the group was shocked to say the least to see what looked to be 4 Gotens. One who was fully grown, with weird hair that jetted out in one direction, wearing civilian clothes. One looked about the same height as their Goten, but was much more muscular, and his hair was an odd, spiky mix of Goku's classic hair and Trunks' hair when he is a Super Saiyan, wearing a blue and orange gi, though it was a darker orange. One that had scars spread randomly across his face, and orange with hair that seemed to go just everywhere, wearing what looked to be a very rushed, patched-up armor and boots, and appeared to be somewhat malnourished. The last one looked like Goten back when he was 7 years old, had hair identical to his father and wearing a blue and orange gi, though his eyes were awfully baggy and his skin slightly pale, as though he was sick or hadn't gotten much sleep, and he also appeared to be malnourished. In between the four Gotens was an adult Trunks similar in appearance to future Trunks, though he looked far less battle-hardened. A much more muscular Krillin, who was wearing a cape similar to Tien's, and a big humanoid black hedgehog with red streaks on his head quills, which spiked in all directions, wore gloves and red, white, and black shoes with gold rings on his wrists and ankles, had a tuft of white fur on his chest, an orange lip, and huge eyeballs that connected to each other near his tiny black pointed nose, with piercing red and black irises at the center of each eyeball, the definitive badass look. The 7 other dimension visitors looked at each other and the Z warriors with varying states of confusion, bewilderment, and suspicion. After a minute of staring, the scarred Goten and the black hedgehog locked eyes with the group. The scarred Goten gritted his teeth, and the black hedgehog narrowed his eyes as anger quickly flooded their faces. Both raised their hands and began to charge ki in their palms, aiming at the group. The scarred Goten threatened in a low but demanding and menacing voice. "You fuckwads better explain to us what you did and where we are before we vaporize you." The Z Warriors, as well as some of the other dimension visitors, were shocked to hear such a threat from a child, especially when said child was a Goten, even in alternate universe one. It was clear the Z Warriors had quite the situation on their hands.